This is the video explaining what an interval is, in case that's new to you. If you already know, you can skip this video, except for you might want to skip to the end where I explain what DI stands for. So first of all, an interval is measured in music a little differently than distance is measured with a ruler. So in music, we start with the note that we're measuring the distance from one to the next with 1 instead of 0. So we're going to call this 1, and then the next space or line would be 2. So 1, 2. So we'd say those notes are a second apart. Why do we care what intervals are? It'll be very important, just stay tuned. So this then would be a 1, space is 2, 3. That would be a third. And a fourth. We could go this way, fifth, and they can be stacked on top of each other, or they can be part of a melody, and there's still a fifth. In this video, we're going to go through seconds, thirds, fifths, and sevenths. And the reason is because they're kind of like landmarks for our intervals. What's nice about them is, except for the second, which you just need to know, they're always going to be space to space. There's a third, there's a fifth, there's a seventh. Or if this one's starting on a line, you have your second, which you could put close or far. It's still a second apart. But then your thirds are going to be line to line. Fifth will be line to line. Seventh will be line to line. So it's easier to just visualize those guys. And then once you know them, well, if you know a third and you know a fifth, then you're going to very easily know a fourth. Now for the spiel about why this is important. While we do want to know the notes on the staff, be able to identify them on the staff, and then be able to identify them on the piano, it's actually not something we use when we're reading music so much. So when we are, let's just open up this book. This is The Perfect Start by Kevin Olson. I actually haven't used this much. Someone gave it to me recently, and I've just grabbed it. But if we're reading something like this, you know, if we actually said those notes out loud as we played them, it'd be very slow reading. So professionals that read really well, it's just like if you were reading a book. You're not going to sound out every letter in every word. You just know the word as a whole. And the way that we have that similar experience with music reading is to see the relationship and the distances between the notes, and then our hands learn what that feels like. So this is beginning that skill, and I found that a really easy, simple way, even though it's a little slightly bit annoying maybe, is to say the DI. And by that I mean the distance and intervals. So let's do one here that might be helpful. So here we go. In this song, to say the DI, I'm not going to actually play anything. I'm just going to say it. So I'm going to say the first letter, which reinforces our landmark. So I'm going to find, if I don't know that note, I'll find my nearest landmark. So I have my bass clef F, and then I just go down one. So bass clef F, and then the note below F is E. So I'd say E, and then I'm going to say the direction and the interval, D-I. So up a second, down a second, down a second, up a second, up a second, down a second, down a second, up a second, up a second. When there's a big jump, and if I didn't know that that was a fifth, I could then just say D. So you want to use whatever's going to come to your brain most quickly. So D, and then I would think a third, or a third on C. Then you can go back here and just say E. You have to jump down to E. Up a second, down a second, down a second. And get faster like that. So let's keep going here. G, down a second, up a third. E, same, down a third. So if it's the same note, just say same. Okay? Now, once you've done that, the next step would be to practice that while playing. And I would suggest ignoring the rhythm or articulation or even the fingering and just going through, and you would say E and then play the E. Up a second and then play it. Up a second and then play it. Of course, I'm using the wrong fingers for that, but I said that doesn't matter. So combining that, once you're comfortable just reading it out loud, combining it with actually playing, but no rhythm. Then I would maybe say a third step, if you really wanted to enhance your ability to understand how the staff moves and correlates with your hands motion, is then to think it, but not say it, and then try to do it with the rhythm as well. So that would be the next layer. And you can do it with any song. If you do something that has a lot of big intervals that you're not used to, like this song, you know, up a fifth, same, down a fourth, up a fourth, same, down a third, up a third. That might be more challenging, but might be a fun challenge. So that's what the DI is. It's really reinforcing your intervals, but not just being able to know them, but actually being able to put them to use in a way that's effective and productive for reading music. So training your hand and your eyes to come together in their knowledge of what those symbols mean. It's simple but powerful.